Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. You ready to jump in?
Let's get into it.
All right, so today we are going to be cracking open the first episode of The Chosen, a show that I know has gotten a lot of buzz, and we're going to be looking at, its portrayal of life in first century Capernaum.
Okay.
And really those pivotal encounters with Jesus. So I guess to kick things off, what stands out to you about this first episode? I mean, it's a fascinating one.
What I think is so interesting about this episode is how it takes us beyond like the familiar biblical narrative.
Yeah.
You know, we meet everyday people grappling with these like real world problems.
Yeah.
And, that makes their encounters with Jesus all the more powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. You can really feel the weight of their circumstances.
Okay.
So let's start with Mary Magdalene.
Okay.
Or Lilith, as the show calls her. We find her in the Red Quarter of Capernaum.
Right.
And, place known for, well, let's just say it wasn't exactly a holy sanctuary. But what really struck me was her isolation. Almost like she's trapped in this personal torment.
Yeah. And that portrayal is really deliberate.
Yeah.
We have to remember that women in that era, they had a very limited social standing to begin with.
Right.
And now add in, what they're portraying here as this like demonic possession, she becomes a complete outcast.
Yeah.
And it's such a powerful way to illustrate the layers of hardship that someone like Mary would have faced.
It's gut-wrenching. And then we have Nicodemus, this respected Pharisee, trying to help her.
Yeah.
And that in itself, I think, raises some eyebrows. Yeah, you wouldn't really expect a religious leader.
Exactly. Like him to be involved in something like an exorcism.
Yeah. So what do you make of that?
Well, I think Nicodemus is kind of walking this tightrope here.
Okay.
On the one hand, he's upholding the law. He's dealing with what's seen as the spiritual threat. But on the other hand, his involvement could also be seen as associating with impurity, potentially damaging his reputation. And when his efforts fail, it just adds another layer to Mary's perceived hopelessness.
Yeah, it's like each attempt to help her just pushes her further into this abyss. But then we shift gears a little bit, and we meet Simon Peter and his brother Andrew.
Okay.
These guys are fishermen, just trying to make a living. But they're caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, their struggles with Roman taxes, I think, really underscore that precarious situation of ordinary people in Roman-occupied Judea.
Right.
I mean, they're not just fishermen. They're almost like symbols of this community that's under immense pressure.
And this economic strain is like this underlying tension that kind of permeates the entire episode. You can practically feel the weight on their shoulders. And then we have Matthew, the tax collector.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about a polarizing figure. The show portrays him as, very methodical. Almost obsessed with order. It makes you wonder, what's his story?
That's where it gets really interesting. Matthew represents the complexities of this society. He's Jewish, yet he's working for the Roman oppressors, collecting taxes from his own people.
Right.
This immediately sets him apart, makes him an outsider. And the disdain that the Jewish community held towards tax collectors, you can feel it in the episode.
You can just tell he's carrying a lot of baggage. And then, of course, there's the moment we've all been waiting for. The arrival of Jesus, the build up to his encounter with Mary is almost electric. Like you can feel this shift.
It is. It's more than just a dramatic entrance. Think about it. Jesus calls Mary by her true name. He acknowledges her amidst all the chaos and torment.
Yeah.
It's a profound act of recognition, a sign of respect that she likely hasn't experienced in a long time.
Chills. It's like he sees right through her pain to the person she truly is.
It's like this casting out of the torment that she's endured goes beyond like a simple miracle. It's a symbol of Jesus's power to bring wholeness, to restore what's been broken, not just physically, but spiritually.
Yeah. It's a powerful visual representation of hope, wouldn't you say? And it almost seems to like ripple outward, affecting not just Mary, but those around her. I mean, think about Nicodemus.
Yeah.
He witnesses this incredible event.
Right.
And you can almost see the gears turning in his mind.
What's so fascinating is that Nicodemus is a scholar of the law. He's steeped in religious tradition.
Right.
And yet here's Jesus performing these acts that challenge everything Nicodemus thought he knew.
Yeah.
It's like this seed of doubt that's planted in fertile ground.
Yeah.
I have to wonder how this is going to impact his faith moving forward.
It's a great example of how The Chosen really dives into the internal struggles of these characters. We're not just seeing actions,
Right.
we're getting these glimpses of their inner turmoil, their questions, their doubts. And I think that's what makes it so relatable, even centuries later.
Absolutely.
And let's not forget Simon and Andrew. They're drawn to Jesus as well, though maybe for different reasons.
Right.
I mean, they see him as a potential solution. They're very real economic woes. Their initial motivation might be more practical. But you can almost sense like a deeper longing there. They're looking for something more than just a good catch of fish. They're yearning for a change in their circumstances.
Yeah.
A sense of hope that seems to be lacking in their lives.
It's a brilliant observation, and I think the episode cleverly uses their struggle to represent this wider yearning for liberation from Roman rule.
Right.
It's not just about paying taxes. It's about a people longing for freedom, both physical and spiritual.
And that's what makes the arrival of Jesus so significant. He enters this world that's seemingly riddled with hardship, oppression, spiritual darkness, and he offers something different. He brings hope, healing, this promise of something more.
Yeah, he doesn't arrive with like an army or a political agenda. He comes with compassion, offering this message of love and forgiveness that challenges the established order. And that's what I think makes this episode and the entire series so compelling. It forces us to ask ourselves, how do we respond to that message? How do we reconcile our own struggles with this promise of hope that Jesus offers?
Those are great questions. And it seems like The Chosen is prompting us to grapple with these questions. Alongside the characters, we see ourselves reflected in their doubts,
Yeah.
their fears, their aspirations.
Exactly. It's not just a historical drama. It's an invitation to explore our own beliefs, our own search for meaning and purpose.
You know, we haven't even touched on the fact that this episode is titled, I Have Called You by Name, which seems particularly poignant, given Mary's experience.
It's incredibly significant. By calling her by name, Jesus is acknowledging her individual worth. He sees her not as a possessed woman or an outcast, but as a person deserving of love and healing.
Right.
And that simple act of recognition, is at the heart of his message.
It's a beautiful reminder that we all have a name, an identity that transcends our circumstances. And that perhaps is where true hope and healing begin. You know, it's interesting how this episode introduces these characters, who on the surface seem so different, yet they're all searching for something. Mary, seeking relief from her torment. Simon and Andrew are looking for a way out of their financial woes. And even Nicodemus seems to be questioning the very foundations of his beliefs.
That's the brilliance of the storytelling here. It taps into that like universal human desire for something more, for meaning, for connection. And it presents Jesus as this figure who offers a path toward those things, a way out of the darkness and into light.
And what strikes me is that Jesus doesn't offer easy answers or quick fixes. He doesn't arrive with a list of rules or a formula for happiness. Instead, he seems to meet each person where they are with compassion and understanding. It's like he's inviting them on a journey, a journey of transformation.
It's subtle, but I think that's one of the most important takeaways from this episode. It's not about blind faith or rigid adherence to doctrine. It's about a personal encounter with this figure who offers like a different way of seeing the world, a different way of being.
And that resonates even today, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We may not be facing demonic possession or Roman taxes, but we all have our own struggles, our own doubts, our own yearnings for something more.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this episode and the entire series of The Chosen so powerful. It invites us to connect with these characters on a human level, to see ourselves reflected in their journeys, and to consider how their encounters with Jesus might offer insights into our own lives.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will take away from this episode?
I think it's the reminder that hope is always possible, even in the midst of darkness and despair. And that transformation, while it can be challenging, is also within our reach. It starts with a willingness to open ourselves to something new, to a different way of seeing the world and our place in it.
Well said. This episode is a great reminder that faith isn't just about believing in something. It's about how that belief shapes our actions, our interactions with others, and ultimately our understanding of ourselves. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into The Chosen. We'll be back too with more explorations of fascinating topics. Until then, keep seeking, keep questioning,